After being married for 18 years, I never imagined that finding hotel receipts in my wife's gym bag would be the least of my concerns. What came next made me realize that sometimes those closest to you are capable of the most devastating betrayals. And my three daughters were about to learn this painful truth as well. My name is Matteo Rafferty. I'm 47 years old, and until 6 months ago, I thought I had everything under control. I'm a partner at Westfield and Associates, one of the leading architectural firms in Denver. I've been there for 23 years, working my way up from junior draftsman to having my name attached to some of the most iconic buildings in this city. I designed my own home in Highlands Ranch, have 3 wonderful daughters, and what I thought was a strong marriage with my wife, Amber. My oldest, Em, is 17 and preparing for college applications. She has her mother's tenacity, but also my attention to detail. Luna, 14, is full of attitude and artistic talent, the very qualities that reminded me why I fell in love with design. And then there's Arya, 11 years old, who still believes her dad can fix anything. Or at least, she used to. The cracks in our lives began to appear last spring, though I didn't see them at the time. Amber started working late more frequently. She claimed her marketing firm was securing bigger clients. She'd come home flustered, distracted, always glued to her phone. When I'd ask about her day, she'd offer vague explanations about tight deadlines and challenging clients. I attributed it to stress. After all, I knew how that felt. Then came the weekend trips, the so-called team-building retreats. She'd pack fancy clothes, the ones she used to save for our date nights, and return on Sunday evening, tired but glowing in a way I hadn't seen in years. The first sign that something was off came one Tuesday evening in March. I was at the office, late, reviewing blueprints for a new project downtown when my senior partner, Derek Mansfield, stopped by. Derek's been with the company longer than me, divorced twice, and has a knack for thinking his age and position entitle him to meddle in everyone's personal affairs. He plopped down in the chair across from me without an invitation. "I saw Amber at the Marriott downtown yesterday," he said. "She looked great." I glanced up from my blueprints. "Funny thing," Derek continued. "She was with some guy I didn't recognize. I figured it might have been a client meeting, but they looked pretty friendly." I stopped drawing. "Friendly how?" Derek shrugged, but there was something calculating in his eyes. Laughing, leaning in close, like they knew each other well. I set my pencil down carefully. What time was this? Around 2 o'clock. They were heading toward the elevators. That night, I asked Amber about her day. She mentioned having lunch with a potential client, saying it went well and could lead to a major contract. She never mentioned the Marriott, nor the man. When I asked where they'd met, she said it was a cafe downtown but couldn't recall the name. That conversation with Derek haunted me for days. I started watching Amber more closely, noticing things I had previously overlooked. The way she guarded her phone, taking it with her to the bathroom, keeping it under her pillow, how she started buying new clothes, subtle changes that made her look younger and more vibrant. Then there was the expensive perfume that appeared on her dresser, a scent I'd never smelled before. 2 weeks later, I decided to come home early. Emma had a track meet, and I wanted to surprise the family by actually being there for once. I pulled into the driveway around 4:30, expecting to find Amber getting ready to leave for the meet. But her car was gone, and Luna was sitting at the kitchen island doing homework. "Where's your mom?" I asked casually. "She left about an hour ago," Luna replied without looking up. "She said she had to meet someone about work." "Did she say when she'd be back?" "No, just that we should order pizza because she'd be late." I called Amber's phone, but it went straight to voicemail. I tried her office, and her assistant said Amber had left early, around 2 o'clock, citing a family emergency. But the girls were fine, and here I was. Amber came home around 9:15, looking flustered, her hair a mess, like she had run her hands through it repeatedly. Her blouse was wrinkled, as if she'd been sitting for hours. "How was Emma's track meet?" she asked, hanging her purse on the counter. "You missed it," I said, watching her reaction closely. Amber's face dropped, but it seemed forced. "Oh no, was that today?" she asked. "I completely forgot. Work has been so crazy." "Your assistant said you left early for a family emergency." The pause was brief, but I caught it. "Did she?" I told her I had an appointment. Maybe she misunderstood. "What kind of appointment goes until 9 at night?" Amber opened the fridge and grabbed a bottle of wine, her back to me. "A client dinner," she said. "The Hartman account. They wanted to discuss expanding their campaign. At which restaurant? Another pause. That new place downtown. Elevation. I knew Elevation. It was a high-end steakhouse with long reservation lists. Not the kind of place where business dinners last past 9 on a weeknight. The next morning, I called Elevation. They had no record of any reservation under Amber's name or her company's name from the night before. That weekend, I decided to confront her directly. We were in our bedroom, getting ready for bed. The girls were all asleep down the hall. Amber was brushing her hair at her vanity, humming softly to herself. She looked content, almost radiant. Amber, I said, sitting at the edge of our bed. I need to ask you something, and I need you to be honest with me. She stopped brushing her hair and met my eyes in the mirror. What's wrong? She asked. Are you having an affair? The brush dropped onto the vanity. Amber slowly turned around, her face changing from shock to anger. How dare you accuse me of that? She replied, her voice rising slightly. Because nothing makes sense anymore. The late nights, the secret appointments, the lies about where you've been. Lies. Amber stood up, crossing her arms. I haven't lied about anything. You're just being paranoid. Then explain the client dinner at Elevation. That never happened. Her face turned bright red. You called the restaurant. Now you're spying on me. Answer the question. You're being ridiculous, Mateo. Are you jealous? Is that it? You can't handle that I have a life outside this house. I looked at her, standing there, defensive and defiant, and something cold settled in my chest. No, I said quietly. I'm not jealous. I'm just done with the lies. After that confrontation, Amber became more cautious, but also more distant. She would smile at me across the breakfast table while the girls chattered about school, but her mind was clearly elsewhere. I recognized the look now, the expression of someone whose heart and mind were with another person. I wasn't going to sit there and pretend that everything was fine anymore. 23 years in architecture had taught me that when you suspect structural damage, you investigate before the entire building collapses. So I started with the phone records. Our family plan made it easy to access them. The discovery made my stomach drop. Hundreds of texts to an unfamiliar number. Calls that lasted for hours. Always during times she said she was in meetings or running errands. The number belonged to someone named Travis Hamilton. A quick search online revealed he worked in commercial real estate, was divorced, 42 years old, and had recently moved to Denver from California. I cross-referenced the timing of their communications with Amber's unexplained absences. Each client dinner coincided with lengthy phone calls. Each weekend retreat aligned with breaks in their texts that suggested they were together. But the smoking gun came when I found Amber's iPad hidden in her closet, tucked behind shoes she never wore. She had forgotten to log out of her personal email account. The messages were devastating. Not just the affair itself, but the casual cruelty in how she spoke about our marriage. Mateo is so boring these days, she had written. All work, no passion. I feel invisible in my own home. Travis replied, you deserve someone who truly sees you, someone who makes you feel alive. There were photos, nothing explicit, but intimate enough to make me sick. Amber laughing in restaurant booths I didn't recognize, holding hands with him while walking through downtown streets, looking happier than I'd seen her in years. The worst part was reading about her plans to spend spring break with him while telling me she was visiting her sister in Portland. My daughter had asked why Mommy suddenly seemed so excited about Aunt Sarah when she'd never shown much interest before. I printed everything. Every email, every photo, every receipt for hotels and restaurants charged to credit cards I didn't even know existed. By the time I was finished, I had a folder nearly 2 inches thick. That night, I waited in the kitchen for Amber to return from yet another board meeting. A lie so obvious now that I couldn't believe I had ever fallen for it. We need to talk, I said when she walked in. She sighed dramatically. Mateo, if this is about the other night. I slid the folder across the kitchen island. Open it. Amber's face went pale as she flipped through the pages. For what felt like an eternity, the only sound was the rustling of paper and the hum of the refrigerator. Finally, she looked up. You went through my private emails, she said. That's your response. You're stalking me, printing out my personal messages? Personal messages? I stood up, my voice rising despite my efforts to stay calm. You mean evidence of your affair? Then explain to me what it looks like when my wife of 18 years is planning vacations with another man while lying to our daughters about where she's going. Amber's defiance wavered for a brief moment, but then her chin lifted again. You don't understand. You've been emotionally absent for years. Travis makes me feel like a woman again, not just your wife or the girl's mother. The admission hit me like a physical blow, but it also brought clarity. Pack a bag, I said softly. You're leaving tonight. Amber didn't pack that night. Instead, she locked herself in our bedroom and called her sister, crying loud enough for the whole house to hear. Emma knocked on my study door around midnight. Dad, what's going on with Mom? I looked at my 17-year-old daughter, the young woman who should have been concerned with college applications and prom dates, and my heart broke all over again. Your mother and I are having some problems, I said carefully. Adult problems that don't concern you girls. Are you getting divorced? The direct question caught me off guard. Emma had always been perceptive, but hearing her say it out loud made it feel real in a way it hadn't before. I don't know yet, sweetheart. Maybe. Emma sat down across from me at my desk, suddenly looking much older than 17. Is Mom seeing someone else? I stared at her, surprised. What makes you ask that? She's been different lately. Happier, but also secretive. And she's always on her phone now, even during dinner. Plus, she bought new underwear last month, really expensive stuff. She left the receipt on her dresser. The matter-of-fact way Emma laid out the evidence hit me hard. My daughter had been building a case, too, probably without even realizing it. It's okay, Dad. I mean, it's not okay, but I'm not stupid. I know what's happening. Over the next week, the truth spread through our house like a slow poison. Luna figured it out when she overheard Amber on the phone saying things no wife should say to anyone but her husband. Little Arya just knew something was wrong because Mommy and Daddy weren't talking anymore. And when they did, their voices were sharp and angry. Amber tried to minimize the damage, telling the girls this was just a rough patch that couples sometimes go through. She painted herself as the victim of my controlling behavior and unfair accusations. But Emma wasn't buying it. Mom, I heard her say one afternoon when she thought I wasn't listening. Dad found your emails, didn't he? That's why he's so upset. Those emails were private, Amber replied. Your father had no right to read them. But you did write them. You were seeing someone else. The silence that followed told me everything I needed to know. That evening, Emma found me in the garage, where I'd been spending most of my time since the confrontation. I was reorganizing my tools, anything to keep my hands busy and my mind focused. Dad, I want you to know something, she said, leaning against my workbench. Whatever happens with you and Mom, me and the girls, we're on your side. You're the one who's always been there for us. You come to our games, help with our homework, make sure we have everything we need. Emma, you don't have to choose sides. Yeah, I do. Because Mom's trying to make this your fault, and that's garbage. She's the one who cheated. She's the one who lied. And now she's trying to manipulate us into feeling sorry for her. My daughter's fierce loyalty both warmed and worried me. These girls shouldn't have to navigate adult betrayals, shouldn't have to choose between their parents. But Amber had made those choices for them when she decided our family wasn't enough. I spent the weekend at my brother's house, trying to clear my head and plan my next moves. When I returned Monday evening, Amber was waiting in the living room with all three girls, looking as though she was staging an intervention. Girls, she said, her voice trembling with false emotion. Your father has some very serious accusations about me that simply aren't true. Emma crossed her arms, her expression skeptical. What kind of accusations, Mom? He thinks I'm having an affair, which is absolutely ridiculous. I've been working extra hours to help our family financially, and instead of being grateful, he's become suspicious and controlling. Luna looked between us, confused and uncomfortable. Arya sat curled up next to Amber, tears already welling in her eyes. Daddy, Arya whispered, are you and Mommy getting divorced? I knelt down in front of my youngest daughter, my heart breaking at the fear in her voice. Sweetheart, sometimes adults have problems they can't fix together. But no matter what happens between Mommy and me, we both love you and your sisters more than anything. But I don't want you to get divorced. Arya burst into tears. Amber pulled her closer, shooting me a look that clearly said, see what you've done? But Emma was watching our mother closely, and I could see the wheels turning in her 17-year-old mind. Mom, Emma said quietly, if Dad's wrong about everything, why don't you just show him your phone? Prove there's nothing to hide. The silence hung heavy in the air. Amber's grip on Arya tightened. I shouldn't have to prove my innocence to anyone, especially my own family, she said finally. Your father needs to learn to trust me again. That night, I made the call I had been dreading. My lawyer, Patricia Henderson, had helped me with real estate matters in the past, but she also specialized in family law. Mateo, she said after I explained the situation, I'm sorry you're going through this, but based on what you've told me and the evidence you've gathered, you have a strong case. What does that mean exactly? It means Colorado is an equitable distribution state, but infidelity can affect alimony and potentially child custody. With documentation of her affair and the financial deception, you'll likely keep the house and have primary custody if you want it. I want it. The girls need stability, and Amber's clearly not thinking about anyone but herself right now. I'll draw up the papers. We can have her served by Wednesday. On Tuesday morning, I sat the girls down before school. Emma already knew what was coming. She had found the legal papers on my desk and read through them with the same attention to detail I'd passed down to her. I'm filing for divorce, I told them. I know this isn't what any of us wanted, but your mother has been lying to us, and I can't continue living like this. Luna started crying. Arya ran to her room and slammed the door, but Emma just nodded. Will we have to choose who to live with? She asked. I hope not. I hope we can figure out something that works for everyone. But even as I said it, I knew Amber wouldn't make it easy. She'd fight for the girls, not because she truly wanted them, but because losing them would mean losing control over me. The biggest shock came Thursday morning when I walked into the office and found Amber sitting in Derek's office. They both looked grave and conspiratorial. Through the glass walls, I could see her gesturing animatedly, while Derek nodded sympathetically. My assistant Sarah intercepted me before I could storm in. Mateo, she said quietly, Derek wants to see you in the conference room. Amber's been here for an hour. In the conference room, Derek sat at the head of the table like he was leading a board meeting. Amber sat to his right, her eyes red-rimmed but defiant. Mateo, Derek began. Amber came to me very concerned about your recent behavior. She says you've been making wild accusations, threatening divorce, putting the girls through unnecessary trauma. I stared at him, then at her. You came to my workplace to discuss our personal problems? I came to someone I thought might talk sense into you, Amber said. Derek's been a friend to both of us for years. Derek, I said, keeping my voice level. Did you tell Amber about seeing her at the Marriott with another man? Derek shifted uncomfortably. I mentioned I saw her. Yes, but I may have misinterpreted what I observed. The pieces fell into place with sickening clarity. Derek hadn't been trying to warn me that day. He'd been fishing for information, probably reporting back to Amber about what I suspected. How long have you known? I asked him directly. Known what? About the affair? About Travis Hamilton? About the hotel meetings you've been helping to cover up? Amber's face went white. Derek's professional mask slipped for just a moment, revealing something calculating underneath. Mateo, Derek said carefully, I think you're under a lot of stress. Maybe you should take some time off, get some counseling. No. I stood up, my voice cold and controlled. What I'm going to do is remind you both that I've been documenting everything. Phone records, credit card statements, hotel receipts, emails, everything. And I'm also going to remind you that as a senior partner in this firm, you have a fiduciary duty to maintain professional boundaries. Involving yourself in an employee's marital affairs and potentially using your position to intimidate me could be construed as workplace harassment. Derek's face flushed red. Are you threatening me? I'm informing you that I've retained legal counsel and that any further interference in my personal life will be addressed through appropriate channels. I turned to Amber. And you're going to be served with divorce papers today. I suggest you find your own lawyer. As I walked out of the conference room, I could hear Derek calling my name, but I didn't look back. Whatever friendship or professional relationship we had was over. By afternoon, word had spread through the office about the confrontation. Some colleagues avoided me, probably worried about taking sides in what they saw as office drama. But others, especially the younger architects who had never liked Derek's old boy network mentality, made a point of showing support. The papers were served that evening while I was helping Arya with her homework. The process server found Amber at Travis Hamilton's apartment. 2 weeks after being served, Amber made her first real mistake. She tried to empty our joint savings account. I discovered it Monday morning when I got a low balance alert from our bank. $28,000 gone. Money we had saved for Emma's college tuition, for Luna's orthodontics, and for emergencies that actually mattered to our family. I immediately called the bank. The transfer had been made Saturday morning to an account in Travis Hamilton's name. It wasn't even subtle. Patricia, my lawyer, was furious when I called her. "This is financial misconduct during divorce proceedings," she said. "It's going to destroy any sympathy a judge might have had for her. Can we get the money back?" "We can try. I'm filing an emergency motion today for a restraining order on all marital assets." But this shows desperation. She's panicking. That afternoon, I did something that surprised even me. I drove to Travis Hamilton's real estate office downtown. He was showing a client property listings when I walked in, all smiles and professional charm. "Excuse me," I said to his clients, a young couple looking at starter homes. "I'm sorry to interrupt, but I need to inform you that Mr. Hamilton is currently involved in stealing money from a family with 3 children to fund his affair with a married woman. You might want to consider working with a more ethical agent." The couple exchanged glances and quickly left. Travis's face turned red with anger. "You can't come into my workplace." "Actually, I can. It's a public business, and I can certainly share factual information about your character with potential clients." "What do you want?" "I want my family's money returned to our account by 5 o'clock today. Otherwise, I'll be standing outside your office every morning at 9 o'clock, letting everyone know exactly what kind of man they're considering doing business with." Travis stared at me for a long moment. "You're insane." "No," I said. "I'm a father protecting his children's future from a thief. There's a difference." The money was back in our account by 4:30. That evening, Amber called me, screaming about harassment and threatening to get a restraining order. "Go ahead," I told her calmly. "File whatever you want, but explain to the judge why you stole our children's college fund to give to your boyfriend." It wasn't stealing. It was theft from our daughters. And now every lawyer in this city is going to know exactly who Amber Rafferty really is. The line went quiet for a long moment. Then she hung up. Emma found me in my study later that night, grading architectural plans and trying to keep my mind occupied. "Dad," she said, sitting in the chair across from me, "Arya is having nightmares about money." My heart sank. "What kind of nightmares?" "She thinks we're going to lose the house, that we'll have to move, that she won't be able to stay in her school." "She's 11, Dad. She shouldn't have to worry about this stuff." I set down my pencil and really looked at Emma. She was carrying too much for a 17-year-old, trying to be strong for her younger sisters while watching her parents' marriage implode. "Your mom tried to take money that belongs to all of us," I said carefully, but I stopped it. "The house is safe. Your schools are safe. Whatever happens between your mother and me, you girls will be okay. I promise." Derek's retaliation came swift and petty. My workload suddenly doubled with impossible deadlines and projects that seemed designed to make me fail. Client meetings I'd been handling for years were reassigned to other architects without explanation. But Derek had underestimated how much respect I'd earned with our clients over 2 decades. Thursday morning, I got a call from James Morrison, owner of Morrison Development and our biggest client. His voice was concerned. "Mateo, I need to ask you something directly. Are you leaving Westfield and Associates?" "Not by choice," I said carefully. "Why do you ask?" "Because Derek called yesterday, suggesting we might want to consider transitioning our projects to other team members. He said you're going through personal issues that might affect your work quality." The betrayal hit me like a physical blow. Derek wasn't just interfering in my personal life now. He was trying to destroy my professional reputation. "James, my personal life has never interfered with my work. Every project I've handled for you has been delivered on time and under budget for 15 years. That's what I told Derek, which is why I'm calling you directly. Whatever's happening over there, Morrison Development wants to continue working with you specifically. If that becomes a problem, we'll need to discuss alternatives." By afternoon, I'd received similar calls from 3 other major clients. Word was spreading through Denver's architecture community that Derek was trying to force me out, and nobody liked what they were hearing. Patricia had warned me this might happen. "Workplace retaliation during divorce proceedings is illegal," she'd said, "but proving it can be tricky." I began documenting everything. I started carrying a small notebook, recording every interaction with Derek, every reassigned assignment, every unreasonable deadline. By the end of the week, I had 12 pages of documented harassment. Friday afternoon, Derek called me into his office. He sat behind his desk with a satisfied smirk, clearly expecting me to beg for mercy. "Mateo, I think it's time we discuss your future here at the firm," he said. "Your recent behavior has been concerning. Perhaps it would be better for everyone if you considered other opportunities." I pulled out my notebook and placed it on his desk, followed by a folder containing copies of client communications and project records. "Derek," I said, "I think it's time we discuss your future here at the firm, because I've been documenting your retaliation, and I have 4 major clients who've specifically requested that I remain on their projects. Clients who represent about 60% of this firm's revenue." His smirk faded. "I've also been in touch with the Colorado Bar Association about the ethical implications of a senior partner using his position to harass an employee over personal matters. Turns out they take that pretty seriously." Derek's face went pale. "Are you threatening me?" "I'm informing you that your behavior has consequences, just like Amber's choices have consequences." I stood up to leave, then paused at the door. "Oh, and Derek, James Morrison specifically asked me to let you know that if my working conditions here don't improve immediately, Morrison Development will be taking their projects elsewhere. Something about preferring to work with firms that maintain professional standards." 6 months later, the divorce was finalized in a Denver courtroom that felt too small for the magnitude of what was ending. Amber sat at the opposite table with her lawyer, looking pale and defeated. The confident woman who had once smirked at my accusations was gone, replaced by someone who understood that actions have consequences. The settlement terms were better than I had hoped. I kept the house, the majority of our savings, and primary custody of all 3 girls. Amber would have them every other weekend and Wednesday evenings, standard visitation reflecting her new status as the parent who'd chosen her affair over her family. "Mr. Rafferty," the judge said, "the court finds that Mrs. Rafferty's financial misconduct and documented infidelity substantially contributed to the breakdown of this marriage. The division of assets reflects these findings." Amber's lawyer had tried to argue that she deserved alimony, claiming she had sacrificed career advancement to support the family, but the evidence was overwhelming. The stolen money, the credit cards, the documented lies. It all painted a picture of someone who'd been planning her exit strategy while maintaining her financial security. After the hearing, Amber approached me in the courthouse hallway. We were alone except for our lawyers, who hung back at a respectful distance. "I want you to know," she said quietly, "that I never meant for it to happen this way." "How did you mean for it to happen?" I asked. She didn't have an answer. "The girls blame me for everything," she continued. "Emma won't even speak to me. Luna barely tolerates our visits. And Arya keeps asking when I'm coming home. That's the consequence of your choices, Amber. I didn't create this situation." "I know. I lost myself somewhere along the way. I felt invisible in my own life." I looked at the woman I'd loved for nearly 2 decades, who'd given me 3 beautiful daughters, and who had once been my best friend and closest confidant. "You weren't invisible," I said finally. "You were just looking for attention in the wrong places." That evening, I sat in our backyard while the girls did homework inside. Emma had been accepted to Colorado State with a partial academic scholarship. Luna was excelling in her art classes and had started talking about design school. Arya was still processing everything, but seemed more stable now. The uncertainty was over. My phone buzzed with a text from Patricia, my lawyer. Derek Mansfield announced his retirement today. Word is the partners pressured him out after the Morrison account threatened to leave. I stared at the message for a long time. Derek's career, built over 30 years, ended because he chose to involve himself in my marriage. Just like Amber's affair had cost her our family, Derek's interference had cost him his reputation. The girls joined me on the patio after finishing their homework, settling into the outdoor furniture we'd bought together when Emma was still in elementary school. "Dad," Emma said, "are you happy?" The question caught me off guard. "What do you mean?" "I mean, now that everything's over, are you happy it's just us?" I looked around at my daughters. Emma preparing for college. Luna finding her artistic voice. Arya slowly healing from the trauma of watching her parents' marriage implode. They were strong, resilient, and surrounded by the stability their mother had nearly destroyed. "Yeah," I said, "I'm happy it's just us." 2 years later, I was designing a new community center in downtown Denver when Emma called from her dorm room at Colorado State. "Dad, I have something to tell you about Mom." My stomach tightened. Amber and I maintained minimal contact now, only coordinating around the girls' schedules and school events. She'd moved to Colorado Springs with Travis, who divorced his wife to be with her. Their relationship had the desperate intensity of people who'd blown up their lives to be together. "What about her?" I asked. "She called Luna crying yesterday. Apparently, Travis cheated on her with some woman from his real estate office." The irony was almost too perfect. "How's Luna handling that?" "Better than Mom is. Luna told her that maybe now she understands how you felt." I leaned back in my office chair, looking out at the Denver skyline I'd helped shape over 2 decades. Some of those buildings represented the work I'd done while married to Amber when I thought we were building something permanent together. Others were projects I'd completed after the divorce, when I'd learned to build for myself and my daughters alone. "Emma, I need you to know something," I said. "What your mother did, the lying, the cheating, the way she handled the divorce, that's not who she was when I married her. People change, and sometimes they change in ways that hurt the people who love them." "I know, Dad, but she made her choices." "Yes, she did, and now she has to live with them." That weekend, all 3 girls were home for Luna's 16th birthday. We grilled burgers in the backyard and talked about colleges, careers, and Luna's latest art project. Arya, now 13 and wise beyond her years, asked if I ever missed being married. "I miss being married to the person I thought your mother was," I said. "Honestly, but I don't miss the lies or the uncertainty or wondering if the person I loved actually existed." "Do you think you'll get married again?" Luna asked. "Maybe someday, if I meet someone who values honesty and loyalty as much as I do." "Good," Emma said firmly. "You deserve someone who won't take you for granted." That night, after the girls were asleep, I sat in my study reviewing architectural plans and thinking about foundations. In construction, everything depends on having a solid base. If the foundation is compromised, the entire structure becomes unstable. My marriage to Amber had been built on what I thought was solid ground, but her deceptions had created fractures that eventually brought the whole thing down. The divorce had been painful, like demolishing a building you'd invested years in creating. But now I had something better, a life built on truth, a relationship with my daughters based on trust and respect, and the knowledge that I was strong enough to start over when necessary. My phone buzzed with a goodnight text from Emma. "Thanks for being the parent who stayed strong for us. We love you." I smiled and turned off the lights. Tomorrow, I had a new project starting, a mixed-use development that would combine residential and commercial spaces, creating a community where people could live, work, and build something lasting. Just like I'd done with my own life after Amber's betrayal taught me that the most important foundation is the one you build within yourself.